So I'm Jeremy, the second of Kari's 3 little brothers. Matthew's here, you might have heard him. I was recently asked how I would describe my relationship with Kari. My first reaction was to think, well, she was my sister. But as I tried to articulate, I realized that our relationship wasn't quite that easy to describe. We weren't your typical siblings. When I was first getting to know my wife, Sarah, we were telling one another about our families. She was sharing about some relationship challenges with her sister. And I responded, I understand. My sister doesn't even talk to me. Sarah didn't really know what to say to that. So how do I describe a relationship with someone who never said a word to me, never signed to me, never wrote to me? From an outside perspective, it might seem that Kari's condition cheated me of a sister. Some may look at Kari's life story and see it as a tragedy. Others may focus on the sacrifices my parents had to make to care for her. It can be really hard to see past the wheelchair, the lifts, the van, the disability. But I want to try to explain our relationship and my perspective of Kari's life through some short stories. One thing I think you'll see is that I firmly believe that Kari understood her surroundings in a lot more ways than we gave her credit for. When I first learned to walk, I would pull up on Kari's chair and it would roll, causing me to take a step. Matthew did the same thing, and Mom always joked that Kari taught us how to walk. And how to roller skate. You're right, Matthew. Yeah, we did the same thing with roller skates. That was a little later. When I was 3 or 4, I would play in Kari's bed. Sometimes it was a boat, and I had to protect her from sharks. At other times, it was a castle, and I was a knight who had to defend her from dragons. I remember her smiling, and in my mind, I knew that she loved playing with me. As I grew, I started to notice that kids would stare at Kari. So I started defending her in a new way. I would glare at them until they felt awkward and look away. Kari and I sometimes shared a room or a bunk bed. We would lay in our beds and play a game where she would coo and I would mimic the sound. She would then make another sound, which I would again copy. We'd go back and forth until one of us fell asleep. As I got bigger, I would hold her on the couch and I would massage her scalp. She would always smile at me. Once Kari was laying on the couch and stretched out her legs. As a result, she kicked a plant off the end table. It shattered on the floor, and Mom came running into the room, immediately yelling at me. Before I could even defend myself, I looked at Kari and saw this huge smile on her face. It was like she had realized that she had successfully gotten me in trouble. When I was around 12, Kari was hospitalized. She had been having uncontrolled seizures, and they put her in a medically induced coma to get them under control. They had taken her off the medication, but she wasn't waking up. Mom and Dad wanted me to come in case she didn't wake. I came into the hospital room, got up into the bed, and just started talking to her. She opened her eyes and smiled at me, which to me seemed totally normal, but apparently from my parents' perspective, it was like she had woken up and realized I still needed her. Kari was great at keeping a secret. I realized I could talk to her about anything, and she wouldn't spread it around. I would often talk through issues with her to help me process. I remember once telling her through some tears, about some girl problems I was having. I realized through her glares that I probably should break up. Kari was there when I first told Sarah that I love her. Kari's smile seemed to say that she was glad I'd finally figured things out. Kari was the first person I told when we were expecting Elia. When we shared the news with my parents, Kari had this huge smile on her face. And I think there was a little bit of gloating because she knew before Mom. I felt blessed in these last few weeks that we knew that the end was coming. I got to spend time holding her while she was still alert. On Sunday, the week that she died, we shared with Matthew that Kari didn't have long to live. He turned to her and said, "Kari, you're going to heaven?" She opened her eyes and gave him this bright smile, one like we really hadn't seen in quite some time. Kari knew it was time to go, and that her suffering would soon be over. But for me, it felt like she still had more to do. She still has a little brother to raise. I wanted her to know my sister, my daughters. She's left a void that no one else can fill. Kari was a force of stability and consistency throughout my sometimes chaotic life. She was an incredible example of patience, toughness, flexibility, and joy in all circumstances. Through watching Mom care for Kari, I saw a practical example of compassion, love, and faithfulness. God used Kari's life to shape mine. She taught me empathy, helped me to be a little less self-centered, and gave me perspective about life's challenges. Without her, I wouldn't work in disability services, I wouldn't know many of my closest friends, and I would never have met my wife. Kari did so much for me. But each day she had to fight through significant pain. I rejoice that she finally met the great healer face to face. I guess it's now up to me to carry on the lessons she taught me. In the end, I don't feel robbed. I don't feel gypped. I was not cheated out of a sister. Kari's life impacted my life beyond what I can describe. People often tell me how special my family is for being able to care for Kari. They tell me my mom is a saint. They say it takes a special person. But I want to flip that thinking on its head. Jesus commanded us all to care for the least of these. My parents simply chose to love their daughter. If my family is special, it's only because of how God has used that choice and Kari's life to shape us more into his image. Thank you, Kari, for letting God use your life. We love you.